Hello again, it's Joe the CRM chap here, and we're back with another video in my series all about Microsoft exam PL-400. This is the exam for those who are developing solutions that extend out the Power Platform. So in today's video we're going to take a look at how you can use Azure DevOps to start to introduce some build and release automation around the solutions you've built out. So in the previous video so far we've seen how we can work with solutions, how we can extract those out using the solution packager tool. We're going to take all of this to the next level now and show you how you can use Azure DevOps to automate a lot of this and take out a lot of the hassle when it comes to releasing your solution out into different environments. So first things first, you can see I've set up a brand new Azure DevOps project in here. I'll include a link in the video so you can basically go and get one set up for yourself. Once it's all set up, we just first of all need to go down into our repos down here. We're using Git. Git is probably the standard these days from a source control standpoint. And all we want to do at the bottom down here is just click on initialize just to get our first main branch for Git set up and ready to go. With that all done and dusted then, we need to start to get set up with the tools that we're going to need to basically automate and build out the various pipelines. So the tool that we want to use is actually something that Microsoft have released. It's called the Power Platform Build Tools. You basically access this from the Visual Studio Marketplace. So I'm just going to copy and paste that onto here. We want to do a search at the top for Power Platform Build Tools, like so. And it should be the first one on the list here. Yep, we can see. So this is a free set of tools that we can use that help us to achieve common operations, whether it's exporting a solution out, running it through Solution Checker. There's loads of really good stuff in here to help get us going. So we want to get this into our Azure DevOps project. So we click on Get It Free. It's going to ask us to select the organization we want to connect to. So just give it a second to load. On the screen that appears, it's going to ask you to select the organization you want to install it into. In this case, because the extension is already installed on my particular tenant, I don't need to take any further action. So in your case, just follow the instructions through. You'll be able to get this all set up and ready to go. So when that's all done and dusted then, if we return back into Azure DevOps, there's a couple of things that we need to just enable from a project setting standpoint, mostly just security things to make sure the build pipelines can do what we want them to do. So first of all, just going to go into project settings down here, going to click on Repositories. We see our PL-400 repository up here, which we want to click onto. Click on the Permissions tab at the top. And we just want to make sure that our project collection build service account, which we can find on the list down here, call it collection build service. If we search for it in full, so it'll be this one on here. We just want to make sure that this has got the appropriate privileges to be able to contribute into our branch, and I think that's it for now. Yeah. So that will save that automatically like so. And now with that permission set, we can actually look at building out our first pipeline. And this pipeline is going to just extract out our solution, put it into our Git repository, and then from there we can then see how as and when changes come through. So we're going to click on pipelines at the top. We're going to go to create pipeline. Traditionally, you may have used the classic editor to be able to build this out, but these days generally you want to try and use YAML where you can. At least that's my sort of recommendation around that. So I'm going to click on Azure Repos Git at the top up here. Click on PL-400. We're going to click on Show More. We're looking for a blank YAML, or no, I think we want to start with this. We'll do the starter pipeline in which case. And then from here we basically just get the initial pipeline built out with some just basic hello world type steps on here, but we're going to want to probably just override the majority of this, so I'm just going to delete that first of all. We're just going to add in some stuff at the top, which is going to export out the solutions. So first of all, we want to give our for each time our pipeline runs, we want to give it just a generic name. So in this case, we use just a series of parameters to be able to build this out like so. We're not going to have a particular trigger for our pipeline at this point. We're just going to basically execute it manually. And then from there, we need to start defining the various jobs that we want for our particular pipeline. So I'm just going to type in jobs first of all. Our first job will be called job extract solution. We're going to be using Windows pools to be able to run this job on Azure DevOps. So just give it a sec while we just type this out. And then below this then we can then start to define the various steps, i.e. our tasks that we want to run as part of this. Now, rather than typing all this out each time, what we can actually do is we've got an assistant over here that we can use. And if we start to type in Power Platform as an example on here, we can see that all of our various different tasks and our that we can add on start to appear. Now, whenever we working with the Power Platform build tools, the first step before we do any other action is that we need to make sure that all of the appropriate tools are installed on the machine. So first of all, we run this Power Platform tool installer down here. Generally, you want to make sure that you're using the default versions, which would typically be the latest ones. So we click on add down there, we can see we get our first task added on to us automatically. We don't even need to type it out. As a next task, what we want to do is get our before we extract our solution, we want to make sure that we set the version, and we want to make sure that it's a unique version each time, so we can identify that further down the road. So first of all, we're just going to do a set solution version task. As part of this, we want to be able to use things like our service connections and things like that. So at this point, we need to actually define that in Azure DevOps, the details that we're going to use to basically get hooked up to our particular instance in this case. So in order to do this, we once again need to go to project settings at the bottom. So I'm just going to open that up in a new tab. And then we're going to want to navigate down to service connections, or where's it gone? Okay, it's down here, service connections, and just create service connection. So in most cases, what you'd want to do ideally is connect up using probably a non-interactive account, so probably something like an Azure AD app registration or something like that. For the purposes of today's demo, we're just going to use the credentials that that I use to be able to get into our particular environment. So first of all, we need to give our server URL. In order to do that, we first of all go back into the Maker portal at the top up here, go into our particular environment. If we click on Advanced Settings on here, the URL that opens up will give us our unique Dataverse URL that we need to use to connect up to. So I can close that down at this particular point, jump back into here, and at this point I'm just going to add in my username and password details to basically let me get in. And I'm just going to call this PL-400 dev test environment. I'm going to want to make sure that I grant access permissions to all pipelines for this as well. So click on Save. Service connection has now been added. I'm probably going to need to just remove and add this task back on, and then we should hopefully see our service connection appear. Yep, there it is. So at this point, we want to give it the name of our solution. So this can be achieved by, press the wrong button, back in a sec. Okay, the button we actually want to press is, we want to go into our solution settings, because we need the logical name of the solution, which will be that there, PL-400 demo solution. In fact, we can probably grab it from there thinking about it. So just going to copy that back onto here. And then for our solution version number, we're going to make this a unique value based on the build ID from Azure DevOps. So to do that, we use this particular formula on here. So we just do version 1, then we feed in a parameter for the build ID. Okay. So we press that down there. Again, that gets added on down there as we want it to. As our next step, we want to be able to export out our solution. So again, we want to search for a Power Platform task. In this case, it's going to be export solution that we want. So if I scroll down onto there, again, we select our service connection. We can get our solution name from here. The output file, we want to output this into our particular build artifact staging directory. So again, we filled in, we provide a parameterized value for that, and then we're just going to call this PL-400 demo solution.zip. We don't want to export it as managed, and we're going to export it using an asynchronous operation as well. So press add at this point, get that task added on. And then next we want to be able to unpack this solution and create and basically get it added into a branch that and obviously track as part of that any commits that are made as part of that. So we're dealing with just a single Git repo with a single branch, master branch, so we don't need to worry too much about setting up an additional branch or anything like that at this point. So all we want to do is add in a command line task, and the script we want to use, which I'm just adapting from somewhere else, so I'm just going to add it in and then probably tweak it once it's been added in. There it is. Okay, so let's just move these back a bit, just to get this all tidied up. Okay, so first of all we want to commit all of the changes as part of that, or we echo out to the console that that's the action we're doing. I'll just change that to set my username as the CRM chap instead. We want to check out our master branch, like so, and then the rest of that should all be fine. We just need to change that there to push origin to master, like so. And then I think our script there is good to go. So what we can do at this point is just do save and run and hope for the best. So we're going to commit it straight to our master branch, and we'll just give that a few minutes just to run. Okay, so we've had a couple of failures. So it looks as if there's a missing privilege that we need to add on in order to make sure that the pipeline can basically work with the Git repository correctly. So again, what we need to do is go back down into project settings. We want to click onto our repositories down here. Click onto PL-400. Go to permissions at the top. And what we need to make sure is that if we search for our solution PL-400 build service, which is down here, we need to make sure that that's also got contribute privileges over the repository as well. So that change has been applied pretty much straight away. Another thing to flag as well, which was an issue, so the name of the primary branch for the project is main, not master. So as a consequence, the pipeline has just been tweaked ever so slightly at the bottom here, just to basically replace master with main down there. Okay, so with that all done, let's run it again and see what we get. Okay, and one more thing that we forgot to do, apologies. So we've exported out the solution in our build pipeline, but we actually haven't done the key extraction bit as well, where we actually unpack it out and actually move it into the folder where we want to basically store it in the repository. So what we need to do is add on a final task just after our export solution, but before we run any command line tasks. So again, and this one is going to be our unpack solution task, which we're going to add on. So in this case, our solution input file will be what we've grabbed from our from earlier in the process. So in this case, it will be PL-400 demo solution, like so. So pop that in there. And then our target folder will be within our build sources directory, which we're going to move it to. And then we're just going to create a folder and we're going to call it PL-400 demo solution is where it's going to extract it all out into. And it's an unmanaged solution that we want as well. So click add on there. Just need to change the indentation on this, I think, and then we should be good. Yep. Okay, great. Right, okay, so save this, run it again, and see you back in a second. Okay, we're all green on that one. Just another silly typo in it, just to flag you up, just so you're aware. So down here, there was an extra 2 single quotes down there, which was basically throwing out that particular task on there. But fixing that, and it's all worked. So if we navigate into the repos now, we can see we've got a new folder. We can see the contents of our solution has been exposed out, all the XML files. We can also confirm that our solution version in here would have been updated accordingly to match against what the build ID was. So in this case, 377 up there. So everything in our repo now, we can actually then proceed to get a pipeline set up that will release this into our production environment. So to do this, we now instead go to releases down here. I'm just going to click on a new pipeline. We're just going to start with an empty job, so we'll just call this our production deployment. We're going to add on an artifact. In this case, we're going to reference out our particular repo down here. So we're just going to navigate into here, select PL-400. We're going to go for our main branch, latest from the default branch, and click add onto there. And then we can start to build out the job that's going to deploy this out. So as before, we need to basically just do install our Power Platform tools first of all, as our first step. Next, we need to pack up our solution. So similar to what we saw in the previous video, we need to make sure we've got a zip file and that also it is packed up and ready to go as a managed solution file. So in this case, we want to browse into our particular folder down there for our demo solution. Click OK. Our solution output file, we're just going to select our build artifact staging directory. So it should be something like this, and then we want to basically just give it the name of our solution. So we'll just call it PL-400 demo solution.zip. Don't forget the .zip. Because we're deploying out into a managed solution, we want to make sure that's specifically set. And then the next and final task that we want to add on is to actually deploy our solution out into our production environment. So there should be one down here for import solution, if I can find it. Yep, right at the top. So again, we use the service connection that we set up earlier. Our solution input file will be basically what we put in the previous step. So basically this, like so. We want to import it as a synchronous process, and then just activate processes as well. Everything else that you can also set additional options in terms of whether you want to overwrite managed customers, unmanaged customization, skip product update dependencies, things like that. We won't worry too much about this for the purpose of this demo. So with that set up and ready to go, we can click on save. Typically with a pipeline, you might want to set up you have different environments. You may want to do pre-approval checks, post-approval gates, things like that. But in the case of this, we don't want to worry too much about that. So we're just going to do create release straight away. Press the create button down there. Click on release 1 up here. And then we can see straight away that Azure DevOps has basically triggered that for us. So we can basically just keep an eye on that by clicking on here and clicking on logs down here, and then we can start to see all the various input go through. So fingers crossed this will all go through okay, so we'll jump back in a minute and just confirm that's been released okay. Okay, I've just realised that actually we're trying to deploy out into dev test as the wrong environment for our service connection. So obviously we need a service connection per environment we want to connect out into. So what we're going to do is click on manage over there, and we're just going to set up a brand new service connection that's going to be for our production environment again. So this will be similar to the one we set up earlier. We're going to want to go into our production live environment down here, go out into our advanced settings as we can see, and grab the URL once again. Because that's what we need to basically get things set up. So I'll just remove all that guff at the end of it there. And then once again, we sort of log in using my user account details. Again, you probably set up a dedicated servers account for this. Let's call this live, like so. Press on save. That's been set up and ready to go, and then we just refresh, select that, save that, and then once again we go through the process where we just create a brand new release and follow that through. So I'll see you back in a second. Okay, we can see now that the import is completed successfully. If we were to go into our live environment now, go down to solutions, we should be able to see that we've got a managed solution out there that has been imported in successfully using Azure DevOps. So really what we've got here, we've got a set of tools here that can very quickly introduce some efficient automation of key tasks that we're typically expected to do as a developer for the Power Platform. We can automate things, we can make things run super slick, hopefully. Obviously there is some little things that we need to make sure are configured, as we saw in the video, a little bit of back and forth in terms of just making sure that things were just set correctly. But it is well worth the effort to invest in this and get your organization to a point where you're doing all of this without even sort of batting an eyelid or without any manual intervention at all. So I hope you found this video useful in terms of preparing to sit the exam and for your revision. We'll be back soon with some more videos where we start to delve into topics such as customizing the system and obviously working with code to extend out the Power Platform. So keep watching, give the video a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I look forward to seeing you back here next time. Take care.